Ladies and gentlemen, three wrestling fans, our favourite matches of all time. That is the conversation today. Let's just dive straight into it. It's a simple concept, obviously. The term is favourite matches. We can have any criteria you want. It can be a favourite match for any reason. It doesn't even have to be the best match. It doesn't need to be that person's best match. It's purely what match did you enjoy? Why did you enjoy it? We're going to pitch 3 to 4 each. Maybe, probably a fifth one, let's be honest. Now, I'll ask my co-host, does anyone want to volunteer to go first?
I would love to go first. I would absolutely love to go first because this is not a Saturday squash where we need to play the host or play the judge in any way. But I'm going to play Saunders anyway, because why not? My number 4 is, and it's only number 4 because it's a match that the only match on this list that I didn't watch at the time it came out. It doesn't predate me, but it predates me watching wrestling properly. And I'm going to take you back to Bad Blood in Your House, 1997. Number 1 contenders match in the first ever Hell in a Cell. Taker versus HBK. Everything about the match, if I'm being brutally honest, is awesome. It's what the WWF used to be. You had everything from DX accompanying Michaels to the ring. You get a bit of Paul Bearer. You get the Big Red Machine. I mean, it's such an iconic debut. And on the Saturday Squash recently where we discussed entrance music, I still believe Kane's the best big guy that the E have ever had. In terms of longevity, ability, big man was cooking. So we even got a broken Spanish announce table. I don't know what else you need from a Hell in a Cell match. We got everything.
True.
And yeah, it's just a personal favourite of mine. It was the first Hell in a Cell match I ever watched. I don't know if it was one of my cousins had it on tape or something like that. But I just remember watching it and thinking, this is incredible. I want to do this. Then I got older, started wrestling at someone's back door, went through a pool table and thought, do you know what? Maybe not for me. But yeah, absolutely, I'm here for it.
It's such a classic match, but it's almost such a testament to these guys that if you say Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels, my mind immediately goes to WrestleMania, not Hell in a Cell.
100%.
It's nuts, man. The guys had probably more than 3 matches, but 3 matches that are literally...
You could argue are the best matches, 100%.
Could argue they're the greatest, 3 of the greatest matches of all time. It is mental. And even then, like, the second WrestleMania 26 match is almost a letdown compared to 25. 25 was just like perfection. It just makes it so tough. I'm going to actually just follow on, if you're right with that, Ross, and I'm going to piggyback a little bit. But
6 men in a cage.
I promise you that is not on this list.
That's impressive.
The Taker versus Michael Hell in a Cell established the Hell in a Cell match as a concept and made it like this makes sense. It is why we don't, but we clamour for these types of matches too as feud enders. And we clamour for 3 stages of hell as feud enders. It's like, this should be 2 guys leaving it in the ring. And the reason they're not on TV for a few weeks isn't because they're on holiday, it's because they've left everything out there. I'm picking another match that essentially not only established this particular concept of a match, but actually led to the creation of a totally new match type just a few months later. This is the match that made me fall in love with professional wrestling. And as you say, you know what's coming. I got the tape, WrestleMania 2000 in Anaheim, California. I got it for Christmas, and I sat and watched it on Christmas Day. Matt and Jeff, the Hardys, versus Edge and Christian versus the Dudley Boys, the triangle ladder match at WrestleMania 2000. We had chairs, we had tables, we had ladders, we had Jeff Hardy determined to kill himself. We had, obviously disappointing, Edge and Christian went over in the match, but I was obviously a Hardys fan back in the day, but this led to TLC, and I know some people will probably pick TLC 2 from Mania 17, but I actually think this is the better match. And this was this match is what ultimately led to the 4 of the 6 guys becoming main eventers, and it led to TLC, and it led to the ladder match being not viable options. We had singles, but a ladder match is a tag team concept. I just think what was ultimately an absolutely shit WrestleMania. It was the standout match on the card. Everything else was absolute dog shit. This match was absolute chaos, and just it's the reason I love professional wrestling. Is that match made me fall in love with professional wrestling. And that's why we're talking favourite matches tonight, not necessarily best matches.
Interesting. I'm gonna go in like reverse order, where I'm actually gonna hopefully try and get progressively further up my chain here. And I'm actually going to piggyback off of Daz's pick, because when he said Taker versus HBK, I went, shit, he's chose my match. He hasn't. He has chose another one. Where I've went for Taker versus HBK Mania 26. Now, this was maybe not as good technically as their match in the previous Mania, but I feel like the storytelling and the drama here just about took like precedence over that and made it slightly better. Like, you know, HBK in the run up to is obviously going crazy. He knows he wants a win over Taker and he's going to do whatever it takes to get it. He's basically snapping. You know, he nearly leaves the WWE before it. He's attacking refs. He's losing titles over the fact that he knows he wants to get this win. Yeah, exactly. Kicked Stan. And it just made this feel different in the build-up. Like, obviously, it's an absolute classic within the ring. The jumping tombstone finish is absolutely mental when you watch that back. And it's got a classic touch at the end. It's a classy way to send off a guy that, in his words, is his true final match. I know that he then threw that out the window and decided to come back anyway. But
exactly, I was going to say it's my one counterpoint to that match.
It was an absolute banger, and on my list is number 4 on my list of my favourite matches.
I don't think you can really argue with it on a storytelling basis. No. The Streak versus career is iconic. I do agree. I think that wasn't technically as good as 25, and no doubt we will come to that at some point across the cumulative lists. I'm assuming 25 will appear in some capacity. 26 was good. Don't get me wrong. It was a great match. It told a great story, so I don't hate it one bit.
I'm with you. The build up was better than 25 because 25 almost felt like a throwaway. I know it sounds really silly saying Taker versus Michaels was a throwaway, but at the time it felt like they were two main eventers without a match.
But they were clearly that long-term storytelling to build to 26, which is...
And at 26 you had the Michaels reaction when he get punted at the Rumble and couldn't challenge, and they snuck him into the chamber to do interference to take out Taker and set the match up. I agree with you. I think the only thing that sticks in my throat is purely the DX versus Brothers of Destruction in Saudi. They just ruined it. But, it's so difficult. You almost want to have a totally separate Taker and Michaels
list.
But take it away from this.
I know.
That's tough. Good. I think we need to just go through the whole conversation at the end, try and pick a top 5 or whatever, because we're 8 minutes in.
It's not going to be easy.
We've been through 3 matches. It's horrible. I'll jump in next, and I'm going to pick this match for a very, very simple reason. Both of these individuals involved in this match have said this is one of their favourite matches they've ever participated in, and it's not even the match that's lauded as the pinnacle of their feud. But the pinnacle of the feud wasn't necessarily because of the match, it was because of everything around the match. So this is one of the days where I'm picking what happened in the ring between these two people. And it is the Monday Night Raw, February 25th, 2013, CM Punk versus John Cena in Houston. And it's the one where CM Punk says, I want to give you a pet driver, John. As a match, that is as good a match as they had. It's just obviously Money in the Bank overshadowed it because the couple of years prior, because the story was better, and this was I think this was Punk's last match. So right near the end of his run, he was just maybe a year out actually. It was right near the end of his time, and it was the end of his tether. We often talk on this, and I won't get into this detail. Like John Cena's greatest rivals, we've talked about this a lot as we head towards his retirement. Punk's up there for me, and I just think that it's a match I enjoy watching. Another thing we talk about on a weekly basis in the podcast is we should have good wrestling matches on a Monday and a Friday. These guys can't have a good match. It doesn't have to always be the PLE. So there's a level of it ticks boxes beyond just being two of my favourites in the ring.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. So my number 3 slot is, I was talking to Saunders off pod about this, and that I elected to leave out some classic matches that may have recently happened in a certain man's retirement tour, purely for recency bias. I have left them out. Right.
That, and we will probably do a whole series of itself on that. So
there will be a John Cena retirement squash that will be an Iron Man match. And
last the whole December.
Yeah. So I'm going to go WrestleMania 20. Triple H versus HBK versus Redacted in a triple threat match, because I don't know if I'm allowed to say his name. But no, and this is why I was swathering whether to put it in, because the guy's legacy is somewhat stained by the horrific actions that became of that man. But I cannot look past it as one of my favourite matches. The reason being, it wasn't my first exposure to Benoit as a wrestler, because I had seen him on cards and etc. But this is a time where I wasn't fully involved full time in the product, so I was picking things up as and when and watching things sporadically. And none of the stories really made sense. I used to watch stuff on YouTube in between PPVs back in the day to try and make stuff make sense. My God, that guy could wrestle. There is a theme here where HBK will appear in the majority of my choices, but that is just testament to how good the guy was. And if you ever think about it, HBK probably doesn't land in my top 5 wrestlers if I was to pick them right now, but maybe he should because he's in most of my favourite matches. Triple H and HBK tell their own story. They've got amazing in-ring chemistry. Adding Benoit to that, because I've watched it back since, because I watched it when I was younger and I just thought it was cool. But actually watching it back since, he added so much to that match. It was a classic. I really, really enjoyed it. I think it's maybe a wee bit rogue and that it might get forgotten by a lot of people because Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero was on that card as well for the title. There was a lot of good wrestling. I think Kane maybe wrestled Undertaker as well on that WrestleMania. So there was a lot on that card and it maybe gets forgotten about a lot bit. But if I think about WrestleMania 20, it's the triple threat that sticks out for me. It's probably my favourite Benoit match. However, similar to it being, like you said, that Undertaker's was stained by the Saudi. The guy has left a sour taste in everyone's mouth, but purely from a wrestling point of view, the guy was so good. Just a shame he had a brain like scrambled eggs. So yeah,
not a CTE guy though.
No, well, yeah, Stone Cold, he's not a CTE guy, but nah. HHH v HBK versus Chris Benoit / Redacted at WrestleMania 20 is my number 3.
It's a good choice, man.
Let's just put a disclaimer in there and say that you're in no way condoning anything that happened post this match. Is looking at the match purely in isolation.
100%. 100%.
If any of the other side jumps on our throats, please understand that we are talking about the match at that time,
not the
being a young kid watching a ridiculous wrestling match.
Absolutely.
Especially as you say, like I've pulled the card up. Yeah, that was the Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar where they just get booed at the building because they were both leaving. Eddie versus Kurt, as you say, Taker versus Kane, which gets 7 minutes for some reason. You had Evolution versus Rock and Sock Connection as well.
It's a massive card.
A huge tag team, 4 corners, and that was John Cena's first ever title as well, winning the US Championship. So
a massive card.
Ridiculously huge card. And as you say, that is the match that sticks out. It's also the match that ultimately led to the first of Randy Orton's ridiculous world title runs over the last 20 years. Roscoe, pick 2.
I'm now going to bring us probably into the match that I'm going to go out on a limb here and say this is probably going to be the match that's the most recent to have happened in all of our lists due to the fact that we all have a bit of nostalgia.
It's Joe Hendry.
It's Joe Hendry. Yeah.
It's not. I'm actually going to take you back to NXT TakeOver New Orleans in 2018.
That will not be the most recent, but I'm here for it.
No,
I'm in.
It's not the most recent.
It's Johnny Gargano and Ciampa. This was back when they were obviously at each other's throats, right? So there was like classic after classic, but this is the one where it was probably the most brutal, right? There's like a segment where there's just weapons being just chucked about all over the place, and I know we use that term a lot, chaos. This was kind of the sort of personification of that. But there's even one moment where like Gargano kind of like breaks apart like a crutch, and he kind of hesitates on like hitting Ciampa with it, and then Ciampa goes for the cheap shot, and I think the match finishes with Gargano countering him and the Gargano escape using like a knee brace around his mouth as like a way of kind of doing it. And he taps out, and it was kind of like, you know, if you were to take it into the comic book world, it was kind of like Batman had beat Joker. It was kind of the vibe almost. This was an absolute belter. Like, and I know that these two are kind of like the sort of Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, and you know, you could watch guys like them wrestle each other over and over and over again. You're not going to get bored ever. And back then, in particular, these two were absolutely immense. Like, this was back when NXT, in my opinion, certainly was in its absolute pomp and its heyday. And this is my number 3 pick, belter.
I mean, you could have picked any black and gold takeover main event, and I would not argue the case. There were so many good matches.
I've also not picked a single one because that reason.
Neither have I. There's loads of my honourable mentions. There is loads and loads and loads of honourable mentions. But I absolutely love that pick.
100%. I'm going to bring us right up to date then, just off the back of what you said there,
2 weeks ago.
I wanted to pick the Mania 40 main event.
What, the Avengers?
Yes, but the reason I can't is because I'm pissed off seeing Cody Rhodes in my telly every week with that title, and it's soured it a little bit for me because I just think it was so much fun, but and it was perfect storytelling. The emotion in that building was unreal. And to be fair, I always knock down WrestleManias very slightly that don't have a dome, because I feel like the noise, if they had a roof, the noise was unreal, but imagine they had a roof. It does take away from the atmosphere. The atmosphere's part of it. I am going to bring us up to date to 2 weeks ago. I have to. I genuinely believe that John Cena and AJ Styles are wrestling soulmates. And I just think that Mr. TNA, Mr. WWE did 5 televised matches. It finished 3-2 to Cena. The Rumble match in Cena 116 is their best in-ring match. I believe that's the best in-ring match. But if we were talking best, I'd be arguing that point. But because we're talking favourite, I built this up in my head so much. You know I did in the podcast. I pleaded with the people of Australia to make sure they got what they wanted. I think to see John Cena do the intro for AJ Styles, and AJ's came out and said he made it about us because I'm also retired, didn't have to do that, was like, it's just perfect. And it was very unusual that you can have 2 faces have a match like that, and the crowd managed the match for them a little bit, and I got what we wanted at the end with the both of them standing tall, taking on the applause for the crowd. In between that, I didn't disagree with what Ross said in the podcast last week. I just chose to ignore it. Was not ignore his opinion, but ignored the fact during the match that of course the guys are getting old. Of course it wasn't their best in-ring work, because AJ Styles and John Cena both peaked 15 years ago maybe in terms of their in-ring athleticism. But it's the match both guys deserve on the way out. I just, like we've said this, that Edge will go down as John Cena's greatest rival, but AJ Styles will go down as the guy who had the best matches with John Cena, and I think vice versa.
I cannot wait for the John Cena, because I do not agree that Edge is his best rival, but we'll get to that in another.
No, I know, and I know that it's the greatest versus the best. I differentiate them in my head because I don't think he's his best. I've always said about the fact that Edge needed John Cena in 2005 and John Cena needed Edge in 2005. We'll get to this, don't worry. We'll get to this. Yeah, we'll get to this. I know. We're almost spinning 2 squashes into one. I know. I'm bringing us up to date with that one, and I did also want to put the Cody match with SummerSlam in there, but I'm ignoring that as well because Cody's champion again. I almost don't want to pick any John Cena matches in this list, but the fact that he's my favourite wrestler of all time, and I have to pick him in. I was so happy watching that 2 weeks ago, and I know it's recency bias, but like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for December. I'm sorry. I'm just physically not ready.
I get it.
Oh. Anybody else want to make more sense with their next pick? Because I don't have actually any words for that match. I just like talking about it any chance I get.
Josh, you haven't went first yet. You can go.
Okay. So my number 2 pick. I've always been a little bit of a homer for The Rock, but I'll actually go for when Cena defeated Rock, Mania 29. I actually think this is one of the matches that we might have all watched together. I feel like there was a period of time, certainly, where we actually got a lot of these Manias in consecutive rows, and I feel like that was an absolute banger. I think quite a lot of people were sceptical, knowing that the Mania match, the Mania main event, was happening like a year out. But I think it actually worked.
That was a year before.
That was the year before.
It was once in a lifetime, twice a year. Yeah.
Aye.
Well,
this was like 2 years before that. The Rock cost Cena against Miz. The next night they set it up for the following year,
and then they ran it back.
Match. Rock refused to do the job in Miami, and then they ran it back with Rock as champion.
They ran it back. So stupid. So stupid. That we got it twice.
The outcome was obvious. They did it twice as well.
But the match itself was an absolute banger. Like, regardless of, if you're a Cena man or you're a Rock guy or whoever, like, the crowd red hot. You get a great moment at the end. The Rock classes that as his last ever match. That was a bit of a barnstormer, to be perfectly honest, and I think that was one where, for me in particular, when I was a kid, like, The Rock was my guy. Like, he was the one that, like, got me into wrestling when I was, like, young. He was the first one that I distinctly remember as the eyebrow raising, trailblazing. Like, that just got me. So to kind of then be able to experience his last one with my mates all sitting watching it was a cool moment. It was really cool. But is not my number 1 pick, but is my number 2.
And the real GOAT obviously picked up the W, which is fantastic. No, I don't disagree. Like, I'm so happy that match happened because Cena was absolutely fucked over in that first WrestleMania match because he carried The Rock through the entire match. People say Cena can't wrestle. I put 90
the match. He carried the whole year.
He wrestled. He wrestled 90% of that match on his own. Honestly, it was like watching him wrestle a mannequin. And the fact that Dwayne wouldn't let him go over in Miami, it was absolute ass. So I'm so glad they got to run it back and Cena got the W that he deserved because he earned it. And it's just dawned on me that they are one apiece. And my God, his last match is coming. Do not run that shit. Yeah, that's a great pick, Russ. That's a really, really good pick. I'll go next.
I love the fact that it's a favourite conversation because it's just pure nostalgia fun. Best would probably be arguing for the next 3 weeks, but
yeah, I'm going to take you back for my number 2 pick to a conversation we had earlier on this very squash, and I'm going to take you to WrestleMania 25 for my second favourite match of all time, and it's HBK versus Undertaker. Now, this is the third time that HBK has featured on the list. It doesn't feature in my favourite match of all time. This is probably as good a wrestling match as I have ever seen, in my opinion. It had everything in it, and I mean, even from the minute HBK's entrance, the white cowboy angel fucking vibe, whatever he was going for, absolutely cooked. And the match that they put on was incredible. The finish was so good, considering it's two guys who'd been wrestling for like 35 years at that point, for them to be that creative and think, right, how can we mix this shit up? For the minute the music started to the minute that the Taker walked behind the curtain, it was a 10 out of 10 match. Deservedly won the Slammy Award for that year. Honestly, I think it's probably the match on this list I could watch every night for a full year and never turn it off, because it's just so technically good to watch. 26 is a better story, we've already spoken about that, but as a technical wrestling match and one I could watch over and over and over, it's Taker HBK. Mania 25%.
So we're at 24 minutes now recording, and realistically we want to keep this under 30. If we got one more pick each, we want to try and round it into some sort of top 5. We don't have to in the top 5, we can just say we've discussed our favourite matches of all time. That could be the conversation, which I think it may have to be, because I don't know if we can narrow this down. I've got a couple, and I actually only wanted to talk about the 3 I've already mentioned, if I'm being brutally honest, because I couldn't possibly pick. I've deliberately omitted Royal Rumbles.
Because that could be a conversation in and of its own, really.
We're going to do this in January, the Rumble, but I do want to mention 2010 and 2020, because both featured returns from the Rated R Superstar. The Royal Rumble is such an easy match to book, but it's very hard to book it well. Because like you can pick the spots, but if it doesn't tie in the ring at the time, it all ends up a mess. Certainly Edge's return in 2021, and obviously Drew winning it, made it an epic match. I'm really reluctant to pick between these two matches that I've kept in the back of my head, and these aren't necessarily number one. I think it would be a John Cena match number one, but I'm going to just mention Batista, Randy Orton, Daniel Bryan, WrestleMania 30. I actually think that the Triple H Daniel Bryan match is also a very good singles match that opened the show. It might even be the better match, and I'm picking the moment over the match here. But in terms of favourite, man, I can't remember if we actually watched that. I'm sure we did together as a group, but it's also the Superdome, which has the best noise in the whole of world sports, pretty much with the dome.
Oh, not when the Saints are playing in it, doesn't it? But
aye. It's just, again, the story, the build up, the fact that whether he was happy or not, the two guys were happy to do the job. Whether they were happy with it, they did the job to the guy at the right time, made Daniel Bryan the top guy in the business. Well, 3 guys did. The Triple H, Batista and Randy Orton all did the job in one night, which is insane if you think about it. Especially because Batista was almost certainly guaranteed a title run with his return that year. It's just an epic moment, and everything that happened that year with Daniel Bryan's story was just phenomenal. And I think it's, I don't know if I have as my favourite match, but it's one of the moments I just remember watching it. And that, to be fair, WrestleMania 30, spoiler alert, for when we have this conversation in a few months' time, will be up there in one of my favourite manias of all time, because the opening match was brilliant, the main event was brilliant, the end of the streak was one of the holy fuck moments. Where were you when it happened?
Yeah. Absolutely. Mad. So incredible.
And that's probably why I'm putting that there. It's just the whole show was fucking brilliant. So
I don't hate it at all, Saunders. I really don't.
I do have one more in my list. This is not a surprise to anyone who knows me, and certainly knows kind of not long after this is when I kind of sort of fell off wrestling for a bit. So I'm going to take your minds back to July 17th, 2011. Money in the Bank, main event. The moment. You have the lead up to the match where Punk has gained an opportunity at the title. He's defeated Mysterio. He's defeated, I think, Cena in the lead up to it as well. He got the number one contenders match, but then announces that but his contract's going to end on the night of the Money in the Bank, and he wants to take home the title. There's interference with much maligned Vince McMahon, but is prevented. Cena gets distracted. Punk hits him with the GTS, gets the WWE belt, and then there's that iconic moment where he runs into the crowd, turns around, and that is cinema. To me, like, that is, I know the pipe bomb is one of the things that he's most, known for, but that moment is kind of like almost etched in my mind as like a holy shit, where were you? Because I actually weirdly watched that one live, and I'm pretty sure I would have had school like the next day or the day after, so I don't even know how I managed to swing that. Then if it was July,
in the middle of July, good one.
It might have been in the holidays, so that's probably the only reason how I could have ever got away with that and, not been an absolute zombie the next day. But honestly, absolute banger of a match when these two, as we've spoken about time and time again, like we're at their prime. What a match and what a moment.
The best moment of that entire match is watching John Laurinaitis get punched right now. Right in the kiss.
Oh, man.
Take that, John. Take a seat.
Very funny.
Yeah. No, it was really, really good. It was a really great match. It's just a shame that, it wasn't a shame at the now, looking back on it. It was a shame at the time to watch John get beat, because John was my guy back then. But still is. But I understand more about pro wrestling now than I ever did back then. And it made sense to put Punk over, especially where he was at the time as well. So, great pick. I'm going to round us out because I'm watching the clock tick on. A couple of honourable mentions very quickly that didn't make the cut. The Fatal 4-Way in which Kevin Owens is crowned as Universal Champion. Massive moment with the pedigrees thing, and just the look of shock on Owens' face as he pounces for the pin is just insane, and it kicked off one of my favourite world champion runs in recent memory because what it turned into was incredible. It's just a shame how it ended, which we won't talk about. Another one that I left off the list, and it really pained me to leave this off the list because wrestling was pretty ass at this period of time, but I take you in the build up to Kofi Mania, the tag team gauntlet match on SmackDown. Was absolutely incredible from a storytelling perspective. One of my favourite matches of all time. It was the Good Brothers, was Rusev and
that was the one where the Russos deliberately
they forfeit. They came out and said they forfeit.
And
then it was Daniel Bryan and Rowan at the end. They got the pin. Kofi went to Mania, and we got another massive moment. But I'm going to tell you what my number one favourite match of all time is, and it does include my GOAT, John Cena. This is by no means his best wrestling match. This is the match that made me fall in love with wrestling properly. Because I had watched it for a couple of years at this point, but I was just watching guys do cool flips and thought it was like cool. But I probably never watched a full card. However, Judgment Day 2005, John Cena, WWE Champion versus JBL in that I Quit match. The stuff that this 10-year-old boy was exposed to in that match was fucking awesome. John was a beast back in the day, man. It's just so good. It was so captivating. And I despised JBL, but again, having grown up and understanding so much more about pro wrestling, that guy was so fucking good as a heel. Like, one of the greatest heels the business has had in the modern era. So, the two guys put on a hell of a show. I think it was the exhaust pipe. Smacks him where he goes through the glass on the stage. Perfect I Quit match. We had a microphone, we heard the I Quit, unlike the other, that we won't talk about. But I think that's 2 digs and 2 squashes. But yeah,
let's make it 3.
Just my personal favourite match of all time.
Nearly drowning, but you tap out a scorpion death.
I know, but we won't talk about it. But yeah, it's my favourite match of all time, purely on the basis that it's the one match that, if you were to say what's your earliest memory of thinking, wow, this shit is incredible, it's that.
That's why I have that Triangle Ladder match of Mania 2000 on my list, because it's just like, yes, this will be my life for the next...
forever.
Aye, forever.
And I've picked the product up since then, and I've dropped it since then, and it's picked it back up. I've never fully fallen out of love with the product, but there was times where I just didn't have time, couldn't bear it. The product was ass. But if you were to ask me what's the match that made you fall in love with wrestling, that, my friends, is Cena versus JBL in the I Quit match.
I've still got honourable mentions as well. I could talk about the one. I mean, there's the Daniel Bryan match with Tons in the Wyatt family was, in terms of moment, was epic. The Kurt Angle Brock Lesnar match where Lesnar nearly kills himself was a really good wrestling match up until he nearly killed himself. There's horrors, man. We could talk for days about this.
I feel kind of sad Kurt Angle never got a single mention. in any list. That's kind of a shame because he's so good.
I did deliberately leave the 6-man Hell in a Cell, but I probably should have put it in there.
I left out my championship scrambles, don't worry.
I also firmly believe that Kurt Angle's best matches were in TNA.
There's no argument with that. There's no argument with
that. That's when he peaked. We're going to call it there. That was us discussing between us essentially our 12 favourite matches of all time. There's definitely going to be a John Cena segment come December when we're prepping for the retirement. There is almost certainly a Taker versus Michaels discussion to probably have at all time. That might be coming up in a few weeks. We rank Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels, the three greatest matches, and we actually try and pick them apart. And that's it from us this week. We'll be back midweek with the usual podcast and reactions to everything Raw and SmackDown. Take it easy, and we'll see you Wednesday.